We want to have it for posterity's sake, so we want to be able to go back. So there are so many Egyptian gods and goddesses that we cannot possibly cover all of them in this. We're having a brief overview, and our assignment today is we're looking at a web quest where we're going to get to explore the creation myth and some of the facts about some of the other gods and goddesses. I love how that video of Mr. Nicky goes and talks a lot about some of the history, like in, how Osiris was the first mummy, and how you end up getting chopped up and then Isis put them back together, and just it's fantastic stories in here. So Egypt, if you haven't figured it out by now, was polytheistic. Who remembers what that word polytheism is? What is that word polytheism? Let's go with Evelyn.
It means believing in more than one god or goddess.
Yeah, more than one god or goddess. Now, a lot of people want to say many. It typically is, but you could just believe in two, and it would be polytheism. They believed in many gods and goddesses, and all of their deities were based on the natural world, on things that they saw. They had a god or goddess, or just like how we talked about with the Mesopotamians. And the very first gods were in animal forms. And what's really cool is how they talked about in the video, how if you saw a god with horns, like we saw looking over with Menes or Narmer conquering Lower Egypt, we saw on the top the gods with horns on there showing their approval of him. And yeah, the power is shown through that. It's so cool. And one of the key things with the Egyptians, of course, is the afterlife. Because they actually had a similar belief that many people today have. A lot of people have this idea of a soul, that there is more to Jackie than just, Jackie's body. There's more to Ivan than just Ivan's body. There's something that makes Ivan Ivan, something that makes Jackie Jackie. And that people would say that's the soul. And the Egyptians believed that everyone had a soul, and that was called a Ka. And the thing is that the Ka needed a home. And so the Ka is going to, have a home of your body. And that's why you need to be mummified, preserved, so your Ka has a place to stay. But the cool thing is the Ka could not only be in your body, and that's why it needs to recognize you, why we need to preserve it. That's why we have to treat our chicken mummies so well. But also the idea that that Ka is also going to be able to go into statues of you and images and things like that. So it's pretty cool there. Now, so as we started yesterday with our chicken mummies projects, is the Egyptians are going to do embalming of the dead bodies and to create the mummies. And we're going to get into that whole embalming process on the next couple slides here. And one of the things that they would do, though, is not only does your Ka need a place to stay, but your Ka is going to need stuff. So when Pharaoh Shania the Great, when she goes to pass on to the afterlife, they're going to leave a lot of her personal belongings with her in her giant pyramid because, her Ka needs things to do. They're going to leave lots of food for her in the afterlife. In the oldest of times, they would actually sacrifice servants and mummify them so that they could then serve her in the afterlife. And then in the Middle and New Kingdoms, it's going to be they're going to have statues of servants. Because like I said, they believe that Ka could go into a statue as well, so that when, Shania's servants passed on, that they would just go in the statue and then they could serve her in the afterlife. And a lot of this we know because, as we talked about, the Egyptians had writing. They had their hieroglyphics. And their hieroglyphics in the Book of the Dead gave the instructions. And we have Egyptian books of the dead. So we get to learn so many amazing things about the Egyptians' religion and mythology from that. Any questions that we have from this first slide? All right. Well then, let's go take a look at an image from the Book of the Dead. What do we think we have going on here? What do you think, Daniel?
Maybe like mummification.
Okay. Some mummification maybe happening. I like it. Yeah. Anything else? Any other ideas? Shania, what do you think, darling?
It looks like they are fanning the queen or king.
Yeah, it's going to be a king. We know because of the beard. Now, although we will have Hatshepsut will be the first female pharaoh, and she will wear because this wasn't a real beard. They didn't have a cool goatee like that. This is actually a piece of wood, but it symbolizes the king. And even Hatshepsut, she went by king as opposed to queen because of the idea with the power. But very good. Evelyn, what did you want to say, darling?
The guy with the animal head, I think, would be Anubis, and they seem to be bringing objects for the pharaoh's coffin.
Yeah, these are actually going to probably get wrapped within the mummy wrappings, within the linen. Linen. Can't speak today. All right, here's another image from the Book of the Dead. And here we see the weighing of the heart. So the idea was that if you were going to go into the afterlife, you are going to go and have to be judged. And so there was this magical scale here where we have the feather of Ma'at, which she was the goddess of law and order, truth and justice. And yeah, you're right, Eliza. And with that, your heart would be weighed. And if your heart was heavier than the feather of the law, of Ma'at's feather, then you would be devoured right there on the spot, like you would not have the good afterlife. Whereas if your heart was lighter than the feather of Ma'at, then you would be granted entry in. And it's cool. Like we have the judges here. You know, we've got Osiris, king of the underworld, right there, the first pharaoh. I think these things are so cool. So, mummification. The Egyptians believed that the afterlife was going to be the best time to enjoy all of the goodness of life. It's going to start off, of course, being mummified. And what happens is they would go, and much like how we covered our chickens with salt and baking soda, the body of a human would be covered in natron, which was essentially like salt and kind of actually some natural baking soda kind of things. And it's dried for around 70 days. Now, they would use a lot more salt and natron, and they would actually stuff it within the body as well to get all of the moisture out. Then the body, after being dried out, and part of that drying process is actually having your organs removed so that they can't rot, your body would be wrapped in linen, and then it would be oiled, and they would actually use resin, which is kind of like sap or wax, and you'd be covered, encased in it, so that your body stays sealed tight, so bugs or anything doesn't get in. By the time we get to the Middle Kingdom, we're going to start putting a mask to make it obvious to who was in there. And we saw in the video, and hopefully in the spring we'll get to go to the Walters Art Gallery. You'll get to see these canoptic jars because they actually have mummies there. Like I've said before, the Walters Art Gallery, it's free. You can go there over the weekends, and you can see a real mummy, and you can see real canoptic jars. And these jars have the lungs, the stomach, intestines, and liver all in there. The heart would be removed too. But because they believed you need the heart, they would mummify the heart separately, wrap it up in linen, and then place it back. Can you please stop that, Alexander? Thank you, sir. Now, some of these details right here, these are interesting facts. You don't need to go and have every little thing here written down or committed to memory. Things you need to know are the fact that they preserved these bodies, and it's called embalming. You need to know the basic idea is you dry them out and you wrap them up. You need to know they remove the organs, but I'm not going to, ever ask you what organs they're removed or what they did with them or what kind of, topper was put on a baboon or a falcon. But the idea was that the sons of Horus were going to be protecting over this body. Fun thing, of course, your brain, they thought was useless, the Egyptians. They didn't think the brain did anything but make boogers. So they knew that the brain would, because it's an organ, would cause a lot of rotting. So they would go and jam like a stick up through the nose and switch it around to make it like scrambled eggs, and then suck the brains out and then just throw them away because they didn't think the brain did anything. Then, after you've been mummified, you'd have a statue of you on this funerary boat, because of course they believed that the Ka could go into statues, and then basically this boat would be there so that they could go travel to the land of the afterlife. Isn't that cool? So, inside the Egyptian tombs, we see these boats. Khufu's Great Pyramid has like a humongous boat that was like filled with all sorts of stuff for them. But often they're more smaller and just have like the little statue on it. Sometimes we just see it in the hieroglyphics as well. And that's just one of the great things about this writing, is the fact that we have these records. We can see this stuff. So cool. Oh, and here are some canopic jars. And like I said, that's where you have some of your organs put in. So like I said, I'm not going to ask you every detail about this ever on a Quizzy-Poo or anything like that. You need to know they preserved the bodies, they dried them, removed the organs. If the Ka would go on a boat to the afterlife. As I mentioned before with Queen Shania, she would have servants with her for the afterlife. And so we'd have these little statues. And the idea was that their Kas would go so that they can serve Shania in the afterlife. Here we just see kind of like how it would go with this idea of the priests. They're going to be going and having lots of rituals. They're going to be having prayers, and they're going to put amulets and things like that within your wrappings so that you could have them in the afterlife, things that would help you. They make sure they said in the song they had, last thing is they open your mouth so that you could speak. You don't have to write these things down right here. And of course, here are the things that they would use. The linen, obviously, to wrap you, although they might actually go and stuff some of the linen in you, because if you remove all of your organs, you're going to kind of be deflated like a balloon. So they do things like fill you with sawdust and lichen and use beeswax. The natron that we have, that's, like I said, that's their salt solution that they'd use. They would use onions. They would even put Nile mud in there to try to, make you look like you, because the whole thing was they wanted to preserve your body. They wanted you to look like you so that your Ka would know it's you. Frankincense, you guys might have heard that, especially with it like around Christmas time. Like it's a sweet smelling kind of fragrance, so it just makes you smell extra good. I just think it's so cool. And then this is the end result. And here we can just see some of the things, like, Seti the first here. This guy died like 3,000 years ago. But yet, he looks like a person. Queen Tai, she looks a little worse, like she lost an eyeball or something in the time. But it's kind of amazing how we can see what these people look like, and although they've been dead for thousands of years. All right, and so I had for us to do a web quest today, but with everything, it took a little bit longer than normal. And I'm thinking, actually, I'm gonna take the grade off of that. I'm gonna make that an optional kind of thing, and I'm gonna make it so you don't have to go do the questions. So I'm gonna change that right now. So if we look in our week 8 folder, come on, stop being full screen. Okay. I'll just look here and go into another one. I don't know why that's being lame. I had for Tuesday us doing this web quest. I'm going to leave that in there, but I'm going to make it an optional assignment for you to do. And you don't have to worry about the questions if you don't want to. Okay? So don't worry about that. I'm going to take the date off of it so that it doesn't pop up on your thing. Okay? So If you'd like to, you're able to go. If you're interested in this, you don't have to do the questions I said. Oh, the questions kind of guide you along. This web quest is a really cool thing that's going to take you through the Egyptian creation myth. And it's got animated GIFs with all of those things. Kadir, what's your question, sir?
Do you say you have a question?
Yeah, it said you had your hand up. Is that a mistake?
I was just going to ask you if we had to do it, but you said we don't have to do it. It's optional.
Yeah, I decided to make it optional because we went a little longer today, and I wanted you to have time in class. All right, yes, Khan, sir.
If we do it, is it a grade?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It doesn't take too long, and you just want to like learn more about mythology and things. But all right, you guys are dismissed. Oh, tell Brady I said hello as well. Missed that dude. All right, so you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all tomorrow in homeroom. Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, I need you to sign out. It's time to go. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, Mide, I need this 5-minute transition here. I need this quick transition because I need to make my daughter some food real fast. So I need everyone logging out, and I'll open it up when it gets close to class time, okay?